We actually know almost exactly where Jason Landry went that night. We have his route. We have the timestamp on his last photo. We have his crashed car, still with the headlights on. We even have a geofence warrant that scanned the entire area for every other phone that could have been out there, and none of it explains what was found on that road. What nobody can explain, not his family, not the sheriff's office, not a world-renowned geographic profiler who was actually brought in to work this case, is why his clothes were laid out in the middle of a freezing rural road 900 feet from his car, folded into the dark. And why, after more than 5 years and one of the biggest searches in the region's history, there is still no trace of him. Let me take you back to a Sunday night in December 2020. It's around 10:55 p.m. on December 13th, 2020, San Marcos, Texas. Jason Landry is 21 years old, a student at Texas State, and by every account the kind of guy who marched to his own beat. A musician, an artist, into the outdoors, spiritual, curious, a little bit of a wanderer even before any of this. And tonight he's just going home. That's it. He's leaving his apartment to drive to his parents' place down in Missouri City, a little southwest of Houston. 2.5, maybe 3 hours on the road. He's got his silver 2003 Nissan Altima. He's got Waze open for directions, normal. The night before, he texted his mom a Christmas list. And on that list, socks. Just, socks. It's such a small, ordinary thing. A kid asking his mom for socks for Christmas. Nobody thinks twice about a detail like that until later, when every ordinary thing starts to feel like it's pointing at something. Now, here's where I have to be honest with you about what we know and what we're guessing. Because we can only see this night through fragments, a ping here, a photo there. We can't actually see inside Jason's head. And in the days leading up to this drive, the people close to him say he hadn't quite been himself. He'd apparently been sleeping badly, barely eating, fasting some said, smoking a lot of weed, and he'd been sending messages that were, let's say, a lot heavier than usual. Messages about God, about the rapture, about aliens, about Jesus and Elon Musk and DMT and levitation and nirvana, all sort of tangled together. Now, was that a guy having a genuine spiritual crisis? A guy who was just really into big ideas? Or a mind starting to slip somewhere his friends couldn't follow? Nobody knows. That's the honest answer. Nobody knows. Sometime before he really got going, Jason made a FaceTime call to a friend. And this part is quietly unsettling. The video connected, but there was no audio. The friend could see him, sweat marks, something off in the way he was moving. Messed up was how it got described. But they couldn't hear a single word he was trying to say. Imagine that for a second. Imagine watching someone you care about clearly trying to tell you something, lips moving, looking not right, and all you get is silence on the other end of the glass. Whatever he was saying, it never reached anyone, and it never will. Around 11:25 p.m., Jason's Waze route just stops. Right there in the little town of Luling at the intersection of Magnolia and Austin Street. Now, on a normal drive home, this is nothing. Luling's just a dot you pass through on the way to the interstate. The turn he needs is toward I-10. That's the road home, the road to his family, to the socks on the Christmas list, to a warm house a couple hours away. But according to the cell tower data, Jason doesn't turn toward the highway. He keeps going straight. Down Austin Street. Away from I-10, away from home, deeper into the dark, and I want you to sit with how dark we're talking. This isn't city dark. Out past Luling, it turns to oil fields and gravel and barbed wire, and there are no streetlights, no glow on the horizon, almost no traffic at that hour. Just the crunch of gravel under the tires, the smell of the oil fields, and every so often a deer or a coyote catching the headlights. It's the kind of dark where your high beams only make the nothing feel bigger. At 11:28 p.m., so just minutes after that wrong turn, Jason sends one last Snapchat, a selfie, to his ex-girlfriend who lived out of state. And here's the part that scrambles every theory. In that photo, he looks fine, calm, even confident, not panicked, not lost, not like a man who just drove past the only road that takes him home. That's the last time anyone sees Jason Landry's face. Somewhere in the next hour, and we don't know the exact minute, something goes wrong on that road. Investigators believe he lost control on the loose gravel. The car goes off, hits a tree, tears into a barbed wire fence, spins out. A single vehicle crash. No sign anyone else was involved. No second set of tracks. Nothing. And then, for about an hour, there is just silence out there on Salt Flat Road. 12:31 a.m. December 14th. A volunteer firefighter is driving the 2,300 block of Salt Flat Road, just outside Luling, and his headlights catch something they were never supposed to catch out here. A car, off the road, crashed. It's Jason's silver Altima, and here's where the ordinary explanations start to quietly fall apart, one piece at a time. Because the scene is wrong, not violent wrong. Wrong in a way that's harder to name. The headlights are still on. The keys are still in the ignition. His wallet's there. His phone's there. There's a small amount of marijuana in the car, which investigators would later take. The engine's off. The front passenger door is locked, and there is no Jason. No blood inside the car. No sign of a struggle in there. No note. Just a young man's entire life. Phone, wallet, keys, sitting in a crashed car with the lights on the darkest road in the county, and the person it all belongs to, simply gone. Around 1:30 that morning, the phone rings at the Landry house in Missouri City. Kent and Lisa, Jason's parents, get the call every parent has a nightmare about. There's been a crash, and their son isn't there. Kent drives out to Salt Flat Road himself, and he would later describe it exactly how you'd imagine, empty and dark. He said he kept expecting to see Jason any second, just around the next bend, standing on the shoulder, walking back toward the lights. He never did, but it's what Kent found in the daylight that turned this from a tragic accident into something people are still arguing about 5 years later. Because when he looked down the road from the car, roughly 900 feet to the south, he started finding his son's things, his clothes, in the road. And I want to walk you through this the way it was actually found, because the order matters, not all at once. One thing, then the next, then the next. About 900 feet south of the car, scattered along Salt Flat Road, they found Jason's shirt, his shorts, his socks, his underwear, his slide sandals, and his wristwatch, everything. Laid out along a freezing road, there were no signs it was torn off him, no signs of a fight, but on the waistband of the underwear, there was a single small smear of blood. Just one. Not a wound, not a pool, a smear. Now stop and think about the night again. It's the mid-30s out there, near freezing, with a cold front pushing through. And this is a young man who, if he was hurt or disoriented, needed every scrap of warmth he had. And instead, the clothes come off, and they're not on his body, they're behind him, in the road. Like he was shedding them as he walked into the dark. Why would anyone do that? And then, north of where the clothes were, there was more. A backpack, toiletries, a ball cap, and one object that, honestly, is the detail I can't shake. A plastic tumbler, a cup, and inside it, dead. Jason's pet Siamese fighting fish, Sparky. He'd brought his fish, think about that. Whatever state Jason was in that night, crashing his car, stripping his clothes on a frozen road, vanishing into oil fields. At some point, he'd cared enough to bring his little fish along with him. Some people think he was trying to protect it. Some think he was too disoriented to even know what he was doing. Either way, there's something almost unbearably human about it. A guy carrying his pet fish into the dark. And Sparky didn't make it either. So, at first, it's what you'd expect. Local search and rescue. Texas search and rescue. Texas AccuSearch. People on foot, on ATVs, on horseback, working the ground around the crash site with scent dogs. The kind trained to follow a person across miles of open country. And the dogs pick up Jason's trail near the scene. Good, that's how it's supposed to go. And then, after a short distance, the trail just ended, like he stopped being on the ground. So they go bigger. When the ground can't find him, they take to the air. Drones, fixed-wing planes, helicopters with infrared cameras, the kind that read body heat off a landscape, that can pick a warm body out of a cold field in total darkness. And for the water, side-scan sonar, dragging the surface for anything the fields might have hidden. More than 150 people across multiple searches, every accessible, reasonable, practical piece of ground and sky and water around that road. Nothing. Not a body. Not a trace. Not a heat signature where there shouldn't be one. So they go all the way to the top. When your dogs, your drones, and your helicopters come back empty, you call the person other investigators call when they're out of ideas. The county brought in Dr. Kim Rossmo, a world-renowned geographic profiler, the man who helped invent the actual math behind predicting where a missing person or an offender is most likely to be. This is the heavyweight, the last door. And Rossmo's team goes through all of it. The location data, the cell pings, the geographic patterns, narrowing the zone where Jason had to be. Their conclusion? Every credible lead had been chased down. They didn't stand up and declare a theory. They just ran out of places the evidence pointed to. The best in the world at finding people ran the numbers, and the numbers ran out. And then there's the geofence warrant. In 2022, the Texas Attorney General's cold case unit pulled data for that exact 67-minute window, 11:26 p.m. to 12:31 a.m., from the last ping to the moment the firefighter found the car. They wanted to know, was anyone else out there? Another phone? Another person? Anyone Jason could have met, or who could have met him? The answer came back empty. No other phones? No one else in that area, during that window. On the darkest road in the county, in the dead of a freezing night, it appears Jason Landry was completely, utterly alone. So, let's lay the strange pieces out on the table. Because individually, you can explain almost any one of them. It's when you put them next to each other that the whole thing stops making sense. 1. The clothes. There's a real medical phenomenon called paradoxical undressing. In the final stages of severe hypothermia, people sometimes feel a rush of heat and tear their clothes off, not knowing what they're doing. It happens. It's documented. And picture it for a second. Bare feet on that gravel, sharp and cold enough to burn, the raw sulfur smell of the oil fields hanging in the freezing air, and not one sound out there but your own breath. That's the road he walked out onto. So maybe that's it. Except his clothes weren't scattered wildly around a spot where he collapsed. They were spread out along 900 feet of road, and he left his phone, his wallet, his keys behind in the car. That's not usually how a freezing, dying person behaves. So which was it? 2. The wrong turn. Why did a guy using Waze to drive home turn away from the highway and drive deeper into the oil fields? A drug or a break with reality could explain disorientation. But the cell data shows he didn't get misrouted. He continued straight, deliberately, past the turn. And minutes later, he took a selfie where he looks calm and completely in control. A disoriented man and a calm man are hard to be at the same time. 3. That silent FaceTime. A friend watched him, sweating, messed up, clearly trying to say something, with the sound completely gone. We will never know what he was trying to tell someone in what might have been the last hour of contact he ever had. 4. The fish. Whatever chaos he was in, he brought Sparky. And that one little detail breaks the whole, he just wandered off confused theory a little. Because part of him was still thinking about something he loved. And here's the last thing, the most unexplainable thing. The thing I keep coming back to. It has now been more than 5 years. There have been searches with dogs and drones and sonar and helicopters and infrared. There's been a geographic profiler and a geofence warrant, and thousands of online sleuths. One of whom reportedly spent $50,000 of his own money on private searches and equipment, cadaver dogs, the works, and in all that time on ground that has been searched again and again and again. No one has ever found Jason Landry, not his body, not his remains, not a single trace of him passed where those dogs lost the scent. A man crashed his car on a road we can pinpoint, at a time we can pinpoint, alone. And then he stepped off the edge of that road and out of the world entirely. That's why this one stays with people. Not just because a bright, creative, spiritually searching 21-year-old is gone, but because everything about how he's gone refuses to line up. The calm selfie and the frozen road, the wallet left behind and the clothes carried away, the searched 100 times ground that still somehow holds on to him. The official view is the quiet, painful one. That Jason crashed, became disoriented, maybe from hypothermia, maybe from something in his own mind that night, and wandered into those fields and never came back out. His family, Kent and Lisa, believe there's a piece of the story still missing, and they've never stopped. Monthly searches, candlelight vigils, they've pushed for the FBI. As Kent put it, as a family of faith, they know they'll see Jason again. Even if it's not in this life, there is still a $20,000 reward for information. The case is still open. Someone, somewhere, may still know the piece that makes it all fit. So I'll leave it with you the way it was left with me. A car with the lights still on, clothes in the road, a little fish in a cup, and a stretch of dark Texas gravel that has never given him back. If you've got a theory, and I know you do, drop it in the comments. I read them. And if you want more cases like this, the ones that don't wrap up neat, subscribe and stick around. There are more of these than any of us would like. Thanks for sitting with this one.